The day I found out my best friend was a stranger. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My best friend, my emergency contact, had a name that didn't exist. I sat in a molded plastic chair under fluorescent lights in a Columbus precinct, trying to breathe like my lungs hadn't forgotten how. My hands shook, so I kept them pinned under my thighs. I worked as a paralegal at a nonprofit clinic downtown. Modest pay, constant paperwork, everything verified. My whole job was credibility, names, dates, signatures. If my name got tied to fraud, I didn't just lose a paycheck. I lost the right to be trusted. A woman in a navy blazer flipped through a thin folder and kept calling me Ms. Patel like she didn't know if I was the victim or the suspect. "Tell me again," she said, "how long you've known Jessica Rowan." "Jess," I corrected automatically. "Almost 3 years." Jess was the person who came when my mom was in the hospital and I couldn't drive because I was crying too hard. She was the person who had my spare key and my alarm code. She knew the dumb little password hint I used for everything. First concert. "Do you have proof," the woman asked, "that she ever lived where she said she lived?" "She showed me a lease," I said. "A lease can be printed," she replied. "An identity can be printed." The lobby door opened and a man with tired eyes walked toward me holding a paper cup of water. He looked less like a hero and more like someone who'd stopped expecting neat endings. "Detective Ruiz," he said. "Maya, right? You're the one who mentioned a Friendsgiving." My stomach tightened. I'd planned that night like a safety drill, witnesses, exits, my phone recording in my pocket, because a part of me already knew this wouldn't stay private. Ruiz sat, opened the folder, and turned the first page toward me. Jess's face stared back, printed in sterile black and white. Under it were 3 different names, 3 different birth dates, and one line that made my vision tunnel. Jessica Rowan, no record found in state databases. I stared so hard my eyes burned. That's not possible." Ruiz didn't blink. "It's not just possible," he said. "It's happening to you." Then Detective Ruiz slid a printout across the table without blinking. Jess showed up in my life on a Tuesday that smelled like copier toner. At the clinic, people came in carrying folders like lifelines. Jess came in carrying nothing but a tote bag and a grin that made the intake volunteer forget to hand her the forms. She leaned over the counter and said, "Okay, weird question. Do you guys help people who are about to get kicked out with their cat?" I laughed, because it was absurd and specific, and because I was exhausted from watching my own relationship fall apart. 2 weeks earlier, my boyfriend had moved his stuff out while I was at work, leaving the apartment feeling like it had been robbed. "We help," I told her, "but you still need to fill these out." She rolled her eyes like we were already friends. "Fine, but if my cat ends up homeless, I'm naming him after you." Her paperwork said Jessica Rowan, DOB March 18, 1996, and an address in Hilliard. The story was simple: month-to-month lease, landlord renovating. She needed time. She joked while I made copies of her pay stubs and thanked me like I'd personally saved her life. A week later, the judge granted her a continuance. Outside the courthouse, Jess threw her arms around me, surprising us both. "You don't even know me?" I said. "That's not true," she said. "You look like you're always bracing for bad news." "I get that." After that, she kept showing up, first with coffee because you looked sad, then with memes, then with invitations to cheap taco nights in the short north. When my mom landed in Riverside with chest pain, Jess didn't ask if I wanted company. She just appeared in the waiting room with a charger and snacks. Sam, my younger brother and roommate, didn't trust people easily. Jess disarmed him by asking for help moving a dresser into her rented room in some suburb I'd never bothered to visit. She insisted on paying him in cash and pizza. By winter, Jess had a toothbrush in my bathroom. By spring, she had my spare key for emergencies. By summer, I'd listed her as my emergency contact at work because she was the only one who always picked up. "This is us," she told me once, clinking her glass against mine. "Chosen family. No returns." I believed her. I needed to. I only realized later she'd asked my birthday 3 different times. The cracks didn't start as cracks. They started as little static pops, annoying, easy to ignore. The first one was her age. At my birthday dinner, she'd raised her margarita and said, "To 29, babe. Welcome to the club." Later, when I teased her for being ancient, she laughed and said, "Please, I'm barely 30. But a month after that, she mentioned turning 32 back when she lived in Phoenix. And when I blinked at her, she smoothed it over with a joke about bad math. Time doesn't count during trauma, she said, tapping my forehead. That's science. The second was family. Jess told stories about a mom who crocheted and a dad who loved motorcycles more than parenting. She said she had a younger sister named Lily who was a mess but lovable. But I never met any of them. Every holiday, she claimed they were complicated. The photos she showed me were always quick, her phone angled away, the screen too dim, a group shot where faces were tiny. Once, I caught a glimpse and saw the date stamp said 2014, but the location tag was Miami, even though she'd sworn she'd never left Ohio until her 20s. When I asked about it, she shrugged. Layovers exist, Maya. The third was work. She bounced between jobs, bartending, freelance marketing, temp receptionist gigs. She always had cash, always had a new set of scrubs or a branded polo, but no pay stubs unless she needed the clinic's help. If I asked where she was working, she'd get vague. Girl, don't start sounding like HR, she'd say, and then she'd distract me by dragging me to Target at 9 p.m. for emotional support candles. I dismissed everything because Jess wasn't just a friend. She was my emotional scaffolding after the breakup. When I had a bad day at the clinic, she'd show up with takeout and sit on my kitchen floor with me until the tension bled out. When my mom's follow-up scans came back clear, Jess cried harder than I did. So when I started seeing mail for J. Rowan show up in my apartment mailbox, even though Jess didn't live with me, I told myself it was a typo, or an old forwarding thing, or Jess being scatterbrained. I didn't want to be suspicious. I wanted to be grateful. The first real warning arrived in my mailbox with my name misspelled. The trigger didn't come with dramatic music. It came as a push notification while I was filing intake forms at my desk. Fraud alert. Was this you? Credit inquiry. Polaris Wireless. 11:42 a.m. I hadn't been to a phone store. I hadn't applied for anything. I stepped into the hallway and called the number in the alert, palms slick. A rep came on. The application is pending, he said. If it's not yours, we can freeze it. Read me the address, I blurted. 3187 Wexford Avenue, apartment 4B. My address. What name is on it? Jessica Rowan, he said, with a co-applicant listed as Maya Patel. My vision tunneled. What email is on the application? He read it out. It wasn't mine. It was a Gmail I knew because I typed it into my phone for reservations and tickets. Jess. Rowan30@gmail.com. I hung up and called Jess. She answered bright and casual. Hey babe, did you go to Polaris Wireless today? I asked. What? No. My credit got pulled. Under your name. With my address. She gave a quick laugh like I'd told a joke. Relax. Banks flag everything. It's not a false alarm, I said. They listed me as a co-applicant. A pause. The road noise on her end got louder, like she'd rolled down a window. Okay, she said slower. Don't freak out. I used your address once for shipping because my landlord was weird about packages. Maybe it auto-filled. You put me on paperwork, I said, without asking. Stop, she snapped, and the warmth vanished. I would never hurt you. You're spiraling. I'm trying to understand, I said, voice shaking. Why would you even be opening a line in my apartment's name? Because I'm trying to build my life, she said, flipping it into a sob story in one breath. And you know my credit is trash. I thought you'd have my back. I stared at the clinic's peeling paint, listening to her turn my panic into guilt. When I got back to my desk, an email from the store was waiting. Application PDF, attached like it was nothing. My cursor hovered, trembling. When I opened the email attachment, the applicant's signature looked exactly like mine. Jess came over that night like she always did when life felt heavy. Hands full, voice light, acting like routine could erase reality. She let herself in with the spare key and lifted a bag of Thai food. Peace offering, she said, trying to smile. No fighting on an empty stomach. I didn't sit with her. I stayed standing by the sink, arms folded. I saw the application, I said. It had my address, my name, my signature. Jess's face shifted into that familiar half-joke mask. Babe, it's not your signature. It's a squiggle. It's my squiggle, I said. Her smile dropped. Okay, fine. The guy said I needed a co-applicant. I panicked. I thought you'd say yes if I asked, but you were at work and I needed it today. So you forged it. Her jaw tightened. I borrowed it. That's not a thing, I whispered. Jess slid down onto my kitchen mat and pressed her palms to her eyes. You don't get it, she said, voice wobbling. I've been trying so hard to be normal, to have bills in my name, to not feel like I'm one missed paycheck away from being nothing. I hated myself for how fast my anger softened. Why didn't you ask me? She looked up, tears glossy. Because people leave when you're messy, she said. You of all people should understand that. My chest squeezed. She reached for my hand, warm and steady. I would never steal from you, she said. I would never. You already did, I said, but it came out small. Let me fix it, she pleaded. Tomorrow, I'll go in, withdraw it, and we'll pretend this never happened. Please don't make me the villain in your story. The words were aimed like darts, at my empathy, at my fear of being cruel. I heard myself say, okay, before my brain caught up. Jess exhaled like she'd won something, then tried to lighten it with a laugh. Look at us, she said. Trauma bonding over noodles. When she left, she hugged me too tight and whispered, don't tell Sam. He already hates me. After she left, I noticed my spare key ring was missing. I tore my apartment apart looking for that key ring, telling myself it had fallen behind the couch or gotten scooped up with the takeout trash. Sam watched from his doorway, arms crossed. You good? He asked. Fine, I lied. When he went back inside, I checked places Jess had been, kitchen counter, bathroom sink, the little dish by the front door where I always dropped my own keys. Nothing. Then I noticed her tote bag slumped in the corner like she'd forgotten it. Jess didn't forget things. She remembered the name of the barista who'd complimented my eyeliner once. My fingers hovered over the bag handle. Touching it felt wrong, even though it was in my home. I told myself I was just looking for my keys. Inside was the usual lip balm, gum, a hair tie, a receipt from a gas station in Grove City dated 2 days ago. Then my hand hit something rigid in a side pocket. A wallet. It wasn't the beat-up one I'd seen her use. This was slim and new. I opened it, and my breath caught. 2 Ohio driver's licenses sat back to back. Same photo, Jess's face, hair pulled back, eyes bright in that DMV flash way. Same height, same weight. Different names, different addresses. One license said Jessica Rowan, DOB March 18, 1996, address 1142 Broadview Lane, Dublin, Ohio. The other license said Kara Benton, DOB July 9, 1993, address 3187 Wexford Avenue, apartment 4B. My address. My brain tried to protect me by offering explanations. Fake ID for bars, clerical error, a twin. But the plastic felt real. The hologram shifted when I tilted it. The raised letters scraped under my thumb. I heard Jess's voice. I would never steal from you. I slid the wallet back exactly where it was and went to my bedroom, shutting the door like it could keep the truth out. Then I opened my laptop like I was clocking in. If she was lying about her name, she was lying about everything. And if my address was on her other ID, this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. The second ID had Jess's face, but the name Kara Benton. The next morning I told Sam I was running errands and went downtown with my stomach in my throat. The Franklin County Courthouse was beige walls and bad lighting, the kind of place that made your voice drop automatically. At the public records counter, I said, I need to look up a case by name. The clerk didn't look up. Name? Kara Benton. He pointed me to a terminal. Dockets are public. If it's sealed, it won't show. I typed Kara Benton and stared as results popped up. Kara Benton, 2019, County Route 041287, theft/identity fraud, disposition, dismissed. Kara Benton, 2021 CV 009614, petition for civil protection order, granted. I clicked the protection order. A PDF opened with a filing date, April 12, 2021, and an address, 1142 Broadview Lane, Dublin, Ohio. The same Broadview Lane printed on Jess's license. The petition talked about mail theft and accounts opened in Kara's name. There was an exhibit attached, screenshots, an email chain, and a Ring camera still of the suspect. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred. It was Jess. Same freckle near her left nostril. Same smile she used on me. Only here, she was labeled unknown female. My brain tried to argue with my eyes. Maybe it just looked like her. Maybe I was projecting. But then I saw the hoodie, gray with a small tear at the cuff, that Jess had worn at my place last week. I printed the docket summary and wrote down the details like I was back at work. Case number 2021 CV009614, filed April 12, 2021, Broadview Lane, Dublin. I opened my notes app and started lining up her stories with the paperwork. Jess told me she'd moved to Ohio late 2021. This filing was April 2021. If she'd been the person harassing Kara, then Kara Benton wasn't her second identity. Kara was a victim. I forced myself back to the counter. Is there a contact number listed for the petitioner? I asked, trying to sound bored. The clerk leaned over my printout and tapped a line with his pen. It's right there. My vision narrowed as I followed where he pointed. The docket listed my phone number as Kara Benton's contact. Seeing my phone number on Kara Benton's court docket felt like stepping on a stair that wasn't there. I walked out of the courthouse trying to think like a paralegal, not like a betrayed friend. Numbers didn't teleport. Someone had entered mine as Kara's contact at some point. Jess had been around my phone 100 times. She'd watched me type my passcode, heard me answer security questions out loud, teased me for using the same hint everywhere. But the docket was from 2021, before Jess even claimed she knew me. Unless she'd known me longer than I thought. I went straight to the clinic. I smiled at clients like nothing was wrong, then slipped into the back office and logged into our case management system, the boring software that kept real lives in neat little fields. Name, DOB, address, phone. I typed Kara Benton into the search bar, telling myself it couldn't be her. We helped hundreds of people. It had to be a coincidence. The file came up anyway. Kara Benton. Dublin address. Notes about mail theft. Notes about a protection order. Intake date. March 29, 2021. 2 weeks before the courthouse filing. I clicked the Contact tab and my breath stopped. Primary phone number, 614-555-0197. My number. Next to it was a timestamp. Updated October 2nd, 2023, 8:17 p.m. Updated by Paddle. My username. October 2nd, 2023, last fall, was the night Jess had been at my apartment with wine because I was stressed about work. She'd asked to borrow my laptop for 1 second to check a flight price because her phone was acting up. I remembered handing it over without even looking at the screen. My chest tightened with a new kind of fear. If Jess had altered a client file using my login, she hadn't just lied about her name. She'd put my job and our clients at risk. It also meant something worse. She'd had access to Kara's information through me, and she'd used my phone number as a hook, a place to catch calls and mail meant for the real Kara. I didn't pick Jess by accident. Jess picked me. In the system, Kara Benton's file showed my username beside her number. I didn't call Jess. I called Sam. Meet me after work. I texted. Not at the apartment. He replied, "What happened?" I sent one line. Jess isn't Jess. We sat in Sam's car in a Westerville parking lot, and I spread my printouts across the dashboard, docket numbers, dates, Broadview Lane, and the screenshot of my username beside Kara's phone number. Sam read, jaw tight. "So she used your work login," he said. "And she's carrying an ID with your address. And Kara Benton is real," I said. "I need to find her." I tracked down the Broadview Lane property manager through public listings. Sam called them and did his calm voice. "Hi," he said. "I'm verifying a tenant reference. Kara Benton, 2021. He listened, eyes widening. When he hung up, he shook his head. "They said she moved out early because of harassment. Their word." I found Kara on LinkedIn, Columbus Metro, photo matching the courthouse petition. I messaged her. "I think someone used your identity. I have records. Please call." She called the next morning from a number that wasn't mine. Her voice was guarded. "How did you get my name?" "I work at a legal clinic," I said. "Your file is in our system. Someone changed your contact number to mine." There was a long exhale. "It's her," Kara whispered. "She's back." We met at a Starbucks off Sawmill Road because it was public. Kara looked exhausted but controlled, the kind of woman who'd learned to keep receipts. "I never met her as Jess," Kara said. "She called herself Jenna at first. Then she started showing up where she shouldn't. My mailbox, my job parking lot. When I reported it, my account started shifting." "Shifting," Sam echoed. "New lines of credit," Kara said, eyes hard. "New addresses. Stuff that made me look unstable." She said she needed someone clean to hide behind. My stomach dropped. Do you have proof it was her? Kara reached into her bag and pulled out printed screenshots. Kara slid me a photo, and Jess was holding my mail. After I met Kara, Sam told me to keep acting normal. If she knows you know, he said, she'll vanish. Or worse. I nodded like I believed I could. Friendsgiving was already planned. My tiny apartment, folding chairs, a potluck with a couple coworkers. I'd originally thought I'd confront Jess that night with witnesses and my phone recording, but now it felt like lighting a match in a room full of gas. Jess still showed up early. She let herself in with the spare key, balancing a foil pan of stuffing and a bottle of wine. I brought carbs and forgiveness, she announced, grinning at Sam. Sam didn't grin back. We're not doing this today, he muttered. Jess's eyes flicked to him, then to me. What's with the energy? She asked. Just busy, I said. As I set plates out, Jess drifted through my apartment like she was checking corners. She stopped at my mail tray and lifted an envelope, casual as breathing. You're getting a lot of mail, she said. It's normal, I said, and my skin prickled. When the others arrived, Jess flipped into host mode. Hugging, joking, pouring drinks. If you didn't know her, you'd assume she was the safest person in the room. Then my phone buzzed on the counter, face up. I saw it before I could stop it. LinkedIn, Kara Benton. Jess saw it too. Her smile didn't drop, it thinned. She stepped closer and laid her hand over my phone like it was hers. Let me see, she murmured, still smiling because people were watching. You know I'm better with paperwork. I slid the phone away. I've got it. Jess's fingers stayed planted, knuckles whitening. Maya, she said softly, don't embarrass me in front of your friends. Sam's voice cut in low. Don't touch her phone. Jess didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on me, voice sweet. People get confused when they dig into stuff they don't understand, she whispered. Confusion makes people do stupid things. The room kept laughing behind us, unaware. I realized she'd chosen this moment on purpose. Witnesses, noise, plausible deniability. Then she leaned in, close enough that her breath warmed my ear. Jess smiled and said, You've been talking to Kara, haven't you? I didn't want a dramatic confrontation. I wanted a controlled one. On my lunch break, I walked into the precinct with a manila folder like I was delivering evidence in court. The officer at the desk asked why I was there, and I said, identity fraud, and my voice didn't sound like mine. A uniformed officer started the intake and gave me the polite, tired look people use when they think you're spiraling. Then Detective Ruiz stepped in, pragmatic eyes, no theatrics. Start from the beginning, he said. I did. The bank alert. The forged signature. The missing key ring. The 2 Ohio IDs. One in Jess's name, one in Kara Benton's. The courthouse docket with Broadview Lane and the filing date April 12, 2021. The screenshot from our clinic system showing Kara's phone number updated to mine on October 2nd, 2023 at 8:17 p.m. under my username. Ruiz didn't interrupt. He just watched the way the pieces stacked. When I finished, he asked, What do you want? I swallowed. I want her away from my life. I want my accounts protected, and I want her to stop using other people. Ruiz leaned back. If she's smart, she'll disappear the second she feels heat, he said. If she's desperate, she'll escalate. So what do? I asked. We verify, he said, and we create a moment she can't talk her way out of. He explained it in plain language, like he knew my brain was overloaded. Get her in a public place with cameras, get her to present her ID, get the business to print their logs. No yelling. No solo confrontation. Everything documented. A bank, I said. She's been pushing me to help her build credit. I can tell her I scheduled a meeting to remove me from that phone application and clear it up. Ruiz nodded once. Good. Not your apartment. Somewhere with security footage. He glanced at Sam, who'd come with me and looked like he wanted to break something. Bring a witness. Don't bring a crowd. My phone buzzed on the table. Jess's name lit up the screen with a text. Miss you. Can we reset tonight? My throat tightened. She was already trying to tug me back into her version of reality. Ruiz tapped my folder. If you want this to stick, he said, you have to act normal. Ruiz said, bring her in somewhere with cameras and don't warn her. I picked a Huntington branch in Dublin because it had cameras and a guard by the door. Jess arrived early, smiling like nothing had happened. See, she said, hugging me. We're fine. Sam sat nearby. Detective Ruiz sat near the entrance in plain clothes, looking bored. He'd told me not to stare. A banker led us into a small office. You're disputing a credit inquiry and an application, she said. I'll need IDs. Jess slid the Jessica Rowan license across the desk without hesitation. The banker scanned it. The computer chimed, then chimed again, harsher. Jess's smile twitched. Is everything okay? The banker kept her voice professional. The ID number isn't matching state verification. It's coming back invalid. Jess laughed too loudly. That's impossible. I just renewed. I opened my folder and laid printouts on the desk like I was in court. The courthouse docket, 2021 CV009614, filed April 12, 2021, Broadview Lane. A screenshot from my clinic system, updated October 2nd, 2023, 8:17 p.m. Paddle, and Kara's photo of Jess holding mail at a mailbox. Jess's eyes skated over them. What is this? She snapped. Then she looked at me, wounded on command. Maya, why are you doing this? Because you put my address on Kara Bennon's ID, I said. Because my login touched her file. Because you used my name. Jess pivoted instantly. Kara is obsessed with me. She's been harassing me for years. She's filling your head with. Ruiz stepped into the doorway and flashed his badge. He set one sheet on the desk. Jess Rowan doesn't exist in the Ohio BMV system, he said. But Kara Benton does. And your face matches multiple reports under multiple names. The banker went still. Sam's phone dropped into his lap like dead weight. My ears rang. Jess stared at Ruiz, then at me. You went to the cops, she said, voice thin. You forced me to, I said. For a second, her mask held. Then it cracked, and what leaked out wasn't just anger, it was fear. I didn't want to pick you, she said, like I was a tool she'd borrowed. I needed someone clean, someone with a real job and a real address. I needed an anchor. My stomach turned. So you targeted me. Jess's eyes went flat, and she whispered, my real name isn't Jess. The reveal didn't end the way movies promise. There was no satisfying click of handcuffs and credits. At the bank, the guard hovered in the doorway while the banker stepped out to get a supervisor. Jess stood up like she was about to be reasonable, then looked at me with something cold behind her eyes. You think you're safe because you brought a cop, she said quietly. You don't even know what you just started. Ruiz moved toward her, and Jess moved first. She grabbed her purse, snatched the fake ID off the desk, and walked out, calm, fast, and gone before anyone found the right words. I stood to follow, but Sam caught my arm. No, he said. Let him. By the time Ruiz hit the lobby, Jess was already swallowed by the parking lot and suburban traffic. The banker came back with forms. We're placing a fraud alert, she said. We recommend a full credit freeze. It felt surreal to sign my name over and over while my best friend evaporated. At the clinic, the fallout hit harder. My supervisor called me into her office that afternoon. Maya, she said gently. IT flagged unusual access on a client file. Kara Benton's. My mouth went dry. Ruiz had warned me. Once a scam touches your workplace becomes part of the case. I made a mistake, I said. Someone used my laptop. My supervisor's face tightened, not angry, just disappointed. We have to report this, she said. We have to notify the client. You're going on administrative leave until we finish the review. Administrative leave sounded neutral, but it felt like a stain. That evening, my phone filled with texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Why are you trying to ruin Jess? And she said you're obsessed. Jess was spreading her story fast, planting doubt like it was a last defense. Sam changed the locks while I sat on the floor staring at my own hands. At 11:06 p.m., a notification lit my screen. New sign-in attempt. Location, Grove City. Device, unknown. That night, someone tried to reset my email password using Jess's old number. The next weeks were less like revenge and more like cleanup after a fire. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus, set up a fraud alert, and changed every password I'd ever used. Sam made me sit at the kitchen table while he watched me turn on 2-factor authentication like it was medicine. No more shared devices, he said. No more quick favors. I changed the locks. I added a cheap camera by the door. I put a hold on my mail and switched to a box in a strip mall near my work because I couldn't stand the thought of my address being a weapon. At the clinic, I met with IT and my supervisor and said the words out loud. My friend exploited my trust. It was humiliating. It was also necessary. We documented the breach, notified Kara properly, and tightened permissions. I didn't get fired, but I didn't get comfort either. Trust, once spent, didn't snap back. Ruiz checked in twice, but his updates were never satisfying. "We're building the file," he said. "We need the right charge, the right warrant. She uses short-term leases and prepaid numbers. She's slippery." Every time my phone buzzed from an unknown number, my body reacted like it was a threat. I jumped at footsteps in the hallway. I stopped jogging after dark. Sam started walking me to my car like I was a teenager again. I finally went to therapy because I couldn't stand the loop in my head. All the memories, now poisoned. The therapist didn't make it dramatic. She just asked, what would safety look like this week? So I made rules. Concrete ones. I didn't hand anyone my phone. I didn't let anyone use my laptop. I didn't keep spare keys where they could be copied. And I stopped apologizing when I said no. The grief was the part no one warned me about. I missed Jess the way you miss a song you used to love, until you remember it was attached to the worst year of your life. I'd find myself opening our old texts, fingers hovering over a joke I'd almost sent, then stopping cold. One night, I found her toothbrush still in my bathroom cup, like a tiny piece of evidence I'd overlooked. I threw it away and sat on the floor, crying for the version of her that had never been real. 2 weeks later, Detective Ruiz called and said, "We found her real name." Ruiz met me at a diner on High Street and slid a sheet across the table. "Her name is Janelle Hart," he said. "At least, that's the name attached to her original Ohio booking photo." My stomach twisted at the word booking. "So she's been arrested before?" Ruiz nodded. "Warrants out of Indiana. Fraud-related. She's been using identities with clean credit and moving between short leases. Kara wasn't the first." I stared at the paper, a list of aliases, dates, and case numbers that made Jess's stories look like cheap stage sets. There was even a note. Targets often connected to records access/administrative roles. "Me," I said, voice flat. Ruiz didn't sugarcoat it. "She got close to you for a reason," he said. "Your job, your address, your habits. You gave her an anchor and a shield." I wanted to argue. I wanted to insist love was stronger than calculation. But when I replayed our beginning, how she'd found my clinic, how fast she'd pushed family, how comfortable she'd gotten with my devices, it all sat in a new, brutal order. "What happens now?" I asked. "We keep building," Ruiz said. "You keep your safety plan. And if she surfaces, you call, you don't engage." On the walk back to my car, the city felt sharper. Every reflection in a window, every stranger too close. But it also felt real again. Not the curated little world Jess had built around me, where my empathy was a lever she could pull. I didn't get a neat ending. My credit stayed frozen for months. My clinic trust took time to rebuild. I lost friends who preferred Jess's charming version of the story to my boring, documented truth. But I gained something I didn't know I'd been missing: boundaries I could live inside. My therapist had asked me what safety looked like. By February, it looked like locked screens. It looked like saying no without explaining. It looked like Sam and I eating pancakes on our tiny balcony, watching the sun hit the parking lot like it was trying again. If you take anything from this, take the unromantic stuff. Freeze your credit when something feels off, turn on two-factor authentication, and never hand your identity to someone just because they make you laugh. I never learned where she went next, and maybe that saved me.